talking about the Chandrayaan2 mission of ISRO. So to start off with, Chandrayaan2 launched on July 22, 2019 off of Indian soil. The launch was a perfect success, putting the lander, the orbiter, and the rover into a perfect orbit around the Earth. And then about a month later, it kept on rising its orbit, and then after a month, it started and began its lunar trajectory orbit. And then it moved out of Earth orbit to go into the lunar orbit. So after that, it slowly lowered its lunar orbit, so it came to a 100-kilometer orbit. At this point, it had horizontal velocity of around 18,000 meters per second. And that's actually really fast, considering that when you have to land, you have to get to 0 horizontal velocity and 0 vertical velocity. So on September 7, 2019, ISRO decided to make their first attempt on landing the orbiter, the lander, and the rover on the south pole of the moon. For context, this is the first time anyone has actually attempted to land on the south pole of the moon in history. So on July 7th, it started its descent. So as you can see here, I have embarked until 10 kilometers down to 0. So the descent was a perfect success until we really got to 6 kilometers above the lunar surface. At 6 kilometers, as you can see, path started to deviate a bit, but we don't know exactly why this happened. But it could have been deviating because actually at 6 kilometers, the rough braking stage would end and the fine braking stage would start. So I guess it could have been a change of program software and the engines kind of malfunctioned. But it eventually regained its proper trajectory around 4 kilometers. So then it looked like it would have been a perfect success. But really, the main question mark is, the main reason for Chandrayaan2 to land way too hard on the moon is at 2.5 kilometers. So at 2.5 kilometers, it appeared that the lander and the rover, so it was basically upside down. And you're not supposed to be that. So after it went upside down, the rest of the mission kind of failed. We don't know why it exactly flipped over, but it could have been because of engine malfunctioning and the maneuvers kind of went wrong. But the main cause effect of the flip over was that the altitude sensor got messed up. And the altitude sensor is really important because at this entire time, the vehicle is slowing down. And it does this by using as little as fuel as possible. But you need to know how far away from the moon you are to know how much time you have left and how much more you need to slow down. So after it flipped over, the altitude sensor was literally pointing into space. So it had no idea where the lunar surface was. But when it recovered at around 2 kilometers, the altitude sensor got messed up because it was pointing at space 30 seconds ago. But then it got messed up and it thought it was like all the way over here. So it thought it had a lot of time left to slow down. But then what happened is it was really close to the lunar surface and it didn't have that much time to slow down. But still, it thought it was up here, so it ended up going really high speeds and essentially, we think, crashed into the lunar surface. The last data we had from Chandrayaan2, the Vikram Lander, was at 0.33 kilometers from the lunar surface. At that point, it was traveling 60 meters per second in vertical velocity and 48 meters per second in horizontal velocity. And it needs to get to 0.33 kilometers away. So what we happened is it crashed down at around 65 meters per second because the speed would increase because the lunar gravity increases the closer you get to the moon. So I'm guessing it fell at 65 meters per second, which for context is around 230 kilometers per hour. So one way I think we could have saved that is, I don't think this was possible, but if we put full thrust on engines over here, the spacecraft might have been able to slow down and come at least somewhat close to zero. But the problem with that is the lander and the rover were completely autonomous because it would take too long to send signals from Earth to the moon. It would take around 1 minute, which is too long when you're trying to land on the moon. Because it was autonomous, they had no way of making full thrust there, and they really didn't know because the only information they had was from the lander. And the lander thought it was up here, so they also thought it was fine. But it eventually, we lost contact, which we think crashed down. But, so we think, no one really knows what happened to it, but I think in 3 days, about September 17th, 2019, the NASA reconnaissance orbiter will come around the South Pole, and we still might be able to see wreckage of the Chandrayaan2. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.